Gurbhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurbhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurbhyo Namaha, Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu, Shri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Parabrahmane Namaha, Shri Lakshmi Hayavadana Parabrahmane Namaha, Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Sorry for the difficulty. We should have checked this prior to going on air. Unfortunately, it took us a long time. I'm going to share. Today's topic is mainly concerned about not the three views, that is Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya views on the second chapter, which I was planning to do. On the email, that is on the Telegram and on the email, we got a number of questions which were very interesting. I thought that we should first address these questions, because if we don't address these questions, people will not get the real idea what to do. So here we are going to start the, let me share my PowerPoint. Can you see this PowerPoint?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So the questions are these. If karma is Anadi, Jeeva is also Anadi, then probably Jeeva did not do any karma because they were together anyway. So the karma was also there forever. Jeeva was also there forever. Since they were together for beginningless time, from beginningless time, why does the Jeeva get the effects of karma? Jeeva gets stuck, bondage due to this karma. This is a very good question. There's a problem right there. So why are we dealing with this question to start with? If you remember right, we said in the second chapter, first simple thing is there is a spiritual principle, spiritual spirit, which is eternal, which does not die when the body is destroyed or killed or whatever happens to the body. So there is an eternal principle and there's a non-eternal principle, which is body. So we talked about that earlier. So why does a Jeeva get into a body? Because of Purva Karma, we said. And then we said that only when the ignorance goes, then the Jeeva is free. And Jeeva's knowledge becomes more clearer when the bondage goes. So we talked about Karma Yoga, we talked about Jnana Yoga, and so on. So we fundamentally got into this problem, a logical problem. Several people asked, why did we get stuck in this bondage to start with? One person could ask, well, why am I in trouble now? Because I'm already stuck in this body. I got this body because of the Purva Karma. Whatever I did, past actions in my past life, that resulted and gave me this particular specific body, Krishna Kashyap, with all the problems the body has. And using this body, brain, heart, lungs, and all this, paraphernalia, I have to act in this world carefully. So, but what about in the last life? What happened to me in the last life? How did I get into trouble in the last life? Oh, no. Again, that is the Purva Karma, right? In the previous Janma, you did something wrong. And so in the last life, you were given some other body. So obviously, there's a fundamental problem that Karma, Avidya, Anadi Chakra is being explained in different ways here. So what are the other consequences of this? What is Karma, Avidya, Anadi Chakra? I mentioned earlier, but I'm just again mentioning because it's related to the same subject. A person commits sin due to what? Ignorance. Ajnana. He doesn't know what is good or bad, so he commits sin. And because he commits sin, the sin causes more ignorance in him. It gives him more ajnana. So because of ignorance, he does more wrong things, bad things. He commits sins again, papa. Hence, the cycle continues, and this bondage never stops in future also. Then now let's go back a little bit and ask this question. Did ignorance come first? or did a person commit sin first? What caused what? So this is the same old, whether the tree came first or the seed came first, right? These are the typical problems we have in philosophy. Now, there are other issues also. I've showed just a picture. So where were we when, if we say Jeeva, matter, and Ishwara, all of them coexisted together. They were all eternal entities, constantly existing in time, in endless time. Let's put it this way, endless time. And we'll come to the concept of time much later from a scientific perspective later. So if we say endless time, that means the same problem occurs. Why did Jeeva get ajnana and get thrown into this matter? Or why did Jeeva and matter cohabit together, get stuck with each other together? Did Ishwara push? Or could we assume that there is a different story altogether? All these three, Jivas, matter, and Ishwara, all were combined in one thing called Brahman. And there are a number of number of Vedic hymns which say, Tadeva Somyadamagra Asiti Ekameva Advitiyam. That means Sat alone existed in the beginning. It was only one. It was without a second. There was no second entity. And all these existing entities, all the universe, what we see here today, everything around us, was all in the beginning only one, and that is known as Sat, existence. So this kind of statements exist in the Shastras, in the Vedas, for sure. And even in Bhagavad Gita, in the later, we'll see Matta Sarvam Pravartate. Everything comes out of me. That's what Lord Krishna says. So if that is the case, were we separate inside Brahman? So somehow we assume Brahman has a cohabiting space. Like, we were roommates with Krishna. That is, matter was there and Krishna was there, or we were in a room which is known as matter, and then inside the matter room, Krishna and us together were there. Just like how some other Shrutis talk about two birds were there perched on the same tree of Prakriti. One bird was unattached to the fruits of the tree. The other bird was attached to the fruits of the tree. So the other bird started eating the fruits of the tree. Finally, the other bird experienced the problems, the taste of the fruit, which could be good or bad, and got into trouble, while the other bird just looked on as a witness. So this verse is also there in the Upanishads. Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhayo. That whole verse is there in different Upanishads, actually, Shveta, Shvetara, Mundaka, and all those things. So we know that there are statements which says that there was only one in the beginning. There are statements which say that Jeeva, matter, Ishwara were always separate, and there are three eternal entities. So we need to understand what is the truth here. Let's go one step further. Now again, consider the options more seriously. So the question, what they asked about Anadi of karma, has lots of corollaries, and we need to understand all these corollaries to figure out what this problem is about. So I'm still explaining the problem in more detail. Now, if Jeeva was with Brahman, or say Krishna, just to be easy, we are reading Bhagavad Gita now, right? And some people make a big difference about Brahman and Krishna. That is because of their own school of thought. For example, in the Hare Krishna school of thought, they make a distinct difference between Brahman and Krishna, and they quote a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which has got which has got a different connotation to Brahman and Krishna and all those things. But for practical purposes, for also with the view of the primary three schools, that is Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, and Ramanujacharya, where they take Brahman as equivalent to Krishna. So there is no difference there. So let's assume Brahman is the final, that is Krishna, and that is so Jivas were all together with Brahman. Let us assume that always together in the very early phase before any creation. Then we can say, how can ignorance be there when Krishna is there? Krishna is all-knowing, all-powerful, and the very fact that he is like sun, no darkness can hide inside sun. So no ignorance can hide in Lord. So if we were there together with him, we could not have had any kind of darkness or ignorance. Then again, some people can say, no, we were given a choice, we had a choice, whether to stay with Krishna or be with Maya or Prakriti or the matter. We picked up matter as our choice, and then we ended up in trouble. We thought that it was good, and we ended up in trouble, and then we got stuck in matter, and on and on and on, from sharira, from body to body. Now we cannot even separate ourselves from our body. Our body is stuck to us like glue. We cannot separate us, separate our body and ourselves. I cannot run away and say, oh my God, this body is not good. My body is not healthy. I have a headache. I have some other problem in my body. I need to get out of this body. I cannot do it. I'm forced to be here. See, we are stuck. By the way, we had no ignorance. How did we choose the wrong choice of choosing matter over Lord Krishna? It has to be because of some ignorance. If we had no ignorance, we would have chosen Krishna. So again, we have this problem. How did this ignorance come in the first place? And I don't remember asking Lord Krishna, please give me ignorance. I never wanted it. I know this body is not very good, so I didn't want this body at all. Then they come out and say in the Shastras, no, Krishna, Lokavattu Lila Kaivalyam, there is a sutra in the Brahma Sutras, says that everything is the play, the divine play of Lord Krishna. You call it whatever, Brahman's Lila you call it, doesn't matter. It's divine play. Then we can ask, well, it's look like, play for the cat, because the cat keeps on chasing the rats. But the rat, it is actually survival, because it's a fear of life, pranabhaya. So is this similar? That is, God is trying to continuously put us in one janma, one life after the other, and we are suffering different kinds of problems, total darkness, total ignorance, a lot of issues in this world. And it's funny play for Lord. He's enjoying up there, sitting happily, and enjoying all this wonderful, TV show, three-dimensional TV show. He can see lots and lots of people caught in matter, and then each was some kind of problem. Do you mean to say God is like he was sitting there when the tsunami occurred, and then hundreds and thousands of people died, and the earthquake killed about 100,000 people in Haiti at once? Poor people, young kids, women, children, old people, without any kind of discrimination. And what did Lord Krishna do while Hitler simply killed 6 million Jews or something like that? And innocent people were crushed to death in minutes when the Ethiopian Airlines crashed just after takeoff, within 6 minutes. So what do you say about this God? Do you think it's just his play, or is he a very, very cruel person who does not care about what happens here at all? So this question comes up too. I'm just giving all these questions because these questions occurred to me a long time ago, and even now it bothers me. So how do we get out of it? But there's an answer to it. But I just want to clarify that these are some questions people have. Before you can go with Ramanujacharya, Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya and all, people have to understand what affects their life. Today, their life is being affected and their questions are different. And we need to come up with some answers to these questions. I'm going to answer this a little later, but I want you to think. Let's go further. Then we say, look, we are suffering, and whether it is 6 million Jews or 60 million people dying, it seems that some long time back there was some kind of a huge, some kind of a object from outside outer space, and it came and hit the surface of the earth, and millions of creatures died at that time. So what do you think? It's all because of karma. Anadi karma, beginningless. There are billions and billions and billions of jivas, maybe trillions and trillions of insects and all these jivas. We can't understand the size, the number of all these jivas. So the karma is beginningless. We don't have, it's not like 1 year, 10 years, 100 years, 200 years. It's in trillions and trillions and trillions of years back, and with absolutely no beginning. So obviously, you cannot count and say why Lord Krishna did not bother when so many people got killed and all those things. That's not a big issue, because if you clearly look at the karma theory, it is beginningless karma, and hence God is impartial. God basically is doing the right thing. He does not discriminate between any jiva. Because so many people had to die, because they had done so many rotten things in their previous lives. So, well, too bad. They had to, they had to be punished. It's not good to not punish somebody who is a thief or a murderer or something. He has to be punished. Only when that person gets punished, you will know that not to do again. Or other people also will be afraid that they should not do. So God is an impartial person, right? Suppose we say that. And if he is an impartial person, why did he create? We did not ask him to give us this kind of a, choice, matter or God, and we don't even know what it is, and we chose matter, and then we got dumped into matter, and then that caused a cycle of ignorance and wrong actions and sins and all those things. We didn't ask him to put us in this kind of a bad body, which gives us so much of problems and ignorance. Then we can remember Sri Vedanta Deshika's sentence in the Dayashataka, his stotra for Venkatanatha. There he says, "No, you are like a stone. Achida Vishishtan Pranaye Jantunavalokya." He says that when there was a period of deluge, period of pralaya, where everything was absorbed into the Lord, you were like, you were not sense, you didn't have any sense. You did not have any consciousness. You were like a stone. And Lord thought that, oh my God, this stone does not have a way to experience Brahmananda, the eternal happiness and ultimate happiness. So I will give them some body so that they can learn the right things and attain Brahmananda. So out of great mercy, Sri Vedanta Deshika says, he took us out of the stone kind of a state and then gave us a body so that we can utilize this body and then find the right path towards the Lord. So it was due to mercy we got the body, so that we can eventually find the way to moksha. So the body is a wonderful gift from God, which can be used in the right purpose. So you should not be upset about your body at all. So this is another view, right? But again, this is okay if you already assume that we existed as jivas. The question is, why are we existing for eternal time when we didn't even ask us to be created? Why are we here? So this question of existence of jiva is still a very awkward question we cannot address easily. See how complex this question of Anadi is? It's pretty complex. So if we were not there at all, there was no need for moksha at all. We wouldn't have done anything. We would be happy in a way. Whether happy or not, we wouldn't have any kind of emotion. Then they say, no, Krishna, what did we say in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter? Jiva was never created. It was always there. All the three entities, matter, souls, and Lord Krishna, existed together forever and ever again. That means they will never go away also. They never cease to exist. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva nabhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param. Never was a time when all these kings and rulers and us, I and you, all never existed in the past. We always existed in the past. We will always exist in the future. Never will we cease to exist. So Lord Krishna says that. So, wow. Again, we come up and say that, well, we will have to agree that the Jeeva was there already, the Jada or the matter was there, and Lord Krishna was there all along, and we were all separate. What does this mean? What this means is logic is externally focused. Our logical thinking cannot understand certain things. It never understands the concept of beginningless time. It just doesn't understand it. And another thing is, time is as a continuous eternal thing is a Newtonian concept. Newton came up with the concept. And I'm sure prior to Newton, many Acharyas, many science, philosophers also came to this conclusion that time is eternal. There's beginningless time and endless time. So we took time as that. But let us understand that concept of time in the physical sense, in the modern science sense later. But the problem is, our mind, our intelligence cannot solve the problem of infinity or beginninglessness. So suppose we give just a simple problem. What is 1 divided by 0? Suppose we say, what is 1 divided by 1,000th of a part? Then it will be 1,000, right? What is 1 divided by 1,000,000th of 1? That will be a million. What is 1 divided by 1,000,000,000th of a billionth of 1? That means it will be again billion. But what is 1 divided by 0? We cannot put a number there. There is no specific number that solves this problem. We call this as a mathematical singularity. I was told by my physics friends that I should not use this term mathematical singularity to explain anything in philosophy, because that has very restricted definition. So I'm not going to take this further. I brought this only to stress the idea that even in mathematics, our scientific thinking does not allow us to understand certain concepts. This is one of the concepts. Similarly, Anadi, the problem of beginninglessness cannot be rationally understood from using any scientific theory or any of our thinking. It is beyond buddhi. It is not understandable. That we have to understand. Similarly, why we got stuck in this matter, it is not understandable. With our present buddhi, it's not understandable. So there are several things which we cannot understand. For example, we cannot understand who we are. From rational thinking, what do we say? Oh, who are you? Oh, I am such and such a person. My name is so and so. My father is so and so. My mother is so and so. We relate to the other people and say that I am so and so as related to somebody. But what are you? What is this I? Can we figure it out? Not using rational thinking. We will never be able to understand that. Similarly, like how we don't understand ourselves. We don't understand how we got here. If we understand who we are, maybe we understand how we got here. We don't even understand. What does Anadi mean? Anadi refers to beginninglessness of something. It relates to beginninglessness of us and beginninglessness of how we got stuck in matter. So there's a relative thing. So both of whether we don't even know who we are and we don't know how we got stuck. Then what is the nature of this karma? The karma, we can come up with number of terminologies. Oh, prarabdha karma, sanchita karma, agami karma, anabhyupagata prarabdha, abhyupagata prarabdha. All are just technical terms to explain certain aspects of karma. Where did this come from? How did it? They are just tools for explanation. But do we really know what this anadi karma is? Why we got stuck? No. We have very limited information about karma. Okay. I don't want to give you what I think is the solution to this anadi karma, anadi karma vasana, anadi bondage, and all right now. I would like to open up more problems for you to think about. Why is this class just an explanation of some problems? Because we have more problems than solutions at this point. But we'll come to the solutions later. I would like to explain a little bit about space, time, and scriptures. How do scriptures deal with space and time? This is an important aspect. Now, let's try to understand our scientific universe, right? It's important for us to understand where science is today so that we can relate to science today. So the age of this universe is supposed to be about, as of today, as of probably the modern science, it is 13.8 billion years. And how did they come up with this number? Because if we somehow have some instrument and measure the light coming from the farthest entity, farthest piece of matter somewhere, we can measure it and say that it took about 13.8 billion light years to come onto the Earth. So to reach the Earth, it took 13.8 billion light years. That is a distance, right? Light year is a distance because light year means the distance traveled by light in 1 year is a light year. So if it is 13.8 billion light years, it is a distance, that is the farthest object from which light emitted long time back. How many years back? 13.8 billion years back. It started, and so we know that the age of the universe is 13.8 billion years. But the size of the observable universe is different. We say it is 93 billion light years because of many issues, saying that when the universe is expanding, so when the light left that farthest object, it was 13.8 billion years ago. But since the universe has expanded a lot for such a long time, this is about 4 times bigger, and so it is 93 billion light years. So universe is constantly expanding as we see in science, right? And for all this for us to understand, it took us 100 years, right? Because so many different scientists worked on this, researched on this, and finally we have this picture of this universe today. Now, think about multiverses. Can another universe exist? Probably yes. Somewhere far away in a different dimension where we cannot. So the current universe and the other universe may not talk to each other. So we don't have any way of communication with the other universe, but it can exist in a different dimension. Maybe it may have different dimension than the regular dimension. Then one question comes up: if we die, where will we go? Where is this Pitraloka? Is it in this universe or some other universe? We don't know. But one thing, because we say that from the Pitras we communicate as per our Shastras, they should be in some other dimension, somewhere right, accessible to us. How? That's how our Shastras say. That means, what do you mean by they're in some other dimension? They're in some other dimension. What it means is, once they leave the body, we cannot communicate with them like how we communicated before when they were alive. Now we cannot communicate. So we need some other way to communicate with them. But they could exist anywhere in the form of light or form of some other variable which we don't know how to communicate with. What if they are in a form of a rock? We don't know how to communicate to a rock, so we don't know. So they may exist in a different state. I just want to let you know the concept of what is a multiverse is. Multiverse is, it could be in a different dimension. So multiverse is acceptable to science, and we don't know anything more than that. Okay, and they talk about wormholes where you can communicate with another multiverse. That is a modern science which says that there could be a wormhole through which you can communicate between two separate universes. This is just for you to understand where we are, right? Now, what is space? According to science, space is not very well defined. time is not very well defined. Let's say why, right? Let's see why. We can't go deep into science in this particular class, so I'm just going to mention. I would like you to go and look at YouTube on some videos on Einstein's theory, videos on Einstein's relativity theory, and second special relativity theory, and everything like that. There you see that if there is no change in the universe, you cannot talk about time. Time is a concept which talks about some change. If the Earth rotates around the sun, there's some event happening. So it takes 365 days. So we divide it by so many different parts and say this is the seconds and hours and all those things. So the time depends on change, right? If change does not occur, time is not defined. Similarly, they go into space gets warped too. What if at the Big Bang, when everything was contained in a very small space, maybe a point or something, what happened to time and space? Space also got warped, and it did not exist the way we see it today. We don't even see space to start with. So the concept of Newtonian time as eternal, that is, that always existed and always it will exist in the future, is one concept, but that was modified by Einstein. And he said time has no independent existence apart from the order of events by which we measure it. That's what Einstein said. Time is, and Sorley, another guy, in physicsarg.com, says time is exactly the order of events. This is my conclusion. Did time exist prior to Big Bang? It is not defined by science, because before Big Bang, it does not understand any change. If there is no change, the concept of time doesn't mean anything. And everything in this universe, there's no space either, because all the matter was at one point. If everything was one point and even light was not allowed to get out, there's nothing. That's exactly what Stephen Hawking says, that all this universe came from nothing. But not every scientist agrees with this. But Stephen Hawking says, prior to Big Bang, there was nothing. How did all this wonderful universe with mountains, rivers, and billions of creatures come into existence? He says, no, it came from nothing. That's what he says. Then I took this out of Guna Muktananda, Dada Guna Muktananda. He's a yogi, American, I think, or some other West European person, and he wonderfully summarized science. He says it's not to put down science, right? But it's just an idea of science, how science has been working, right? Modern science is based on the principle. There's a spelling mistake there. There's a principle. Give us one free miracle, and we will explain the rest. And the one free miracle is the appearance of all the matter and energy of the universe and all the laws that govern it from nothing in a single instant. That is when the Big Bang began. Look at this. Their assumption that everything is in this universe, they explain it away from, it came from nothing. What a wonderful amazing miracle explanation, which they assume that is real, or somehow we don't, whether they can prove it or not, they can't, because they don't know, they don't have any scientific way of proving anything at that point, but they cannot see anything. This has some serious, deep significance in philosophy. When you try to find something outside, when you cannot go beyond matter and time, you will see nothing. This is somewhat like a shunya concept, but it is not the shunya concept. Buddhist shunya concept is totally different from this, by the way. Buddhist shunya is not complete nothingness. It is something there which you cannot explain, that's all. So there is something there. But the scientific comes with total nihility. Scientific assumption is before 15 billion years, for 13.8 billion years, there was nothing. Now, science is not wrong. That's how we can understand life. Science is what makes us live today. We wake up in the morning, and go to work, come back and sleep at the right time so that we can again go back to work, right? All our life is governed by this space-time which we are bound. So the moment we are pushed into this body, we are somehow, most of us at least, except some great souls like Nammalvar, who said that he was a Sharagopa, he did not have the problem of ignorance hitting him when he was born. We are all born, at least me, I can't say about you folks, but I'm definitely an ignorant person. So I got stuck in this matter. I cannot understand the Jeeva or Paramatma or any such concept. So having this in our mind, so science has its problems too. Science has a number of unknowns. Somebody told me, like, some cosmologist was talking in a TED talk, and he said, we have wonderful instruments, and science has advanced so much that we can predict when this asteroid is going to collide with another star or something in the next 200 light years or something like that. It was far away from now. We can predict exactly when this asteroid is going to collide there. Then a guy was in the audience, and he put his hand up and said, "Oh, young man, what's your question?" That cosmologist asked him. You know one thing, my dog ran away about 10 minutes back. Can you tell me where the dog is, or predict where the dog would be in the next 15 minutes so that I can go and get the dog back? No idea. Why? Nobody can predict consciousness, right? We have freedom. Just like that dog has the freedom to go anywhere it wants. So that is unknown to science. So anything related to consciousness, there is no answer. So what I'm trying to say is, we have tools. We have science as our tool. Unfortunately, science is limited, particularly when it comes to consciousness. Science is very limited. There's so much research going on about consciousness. Science cannot understand consciousness at this point. So that's why they come up with hard problem of consciousness and all this. You can read about it in textbooks and research papers. So I'm trying to be as current with the scientific world as I can, as my thinking lets me do, so that you can relate to all these while while going about your sadhana, and then going about understanding Bhagavad Gita and what is the significance of Bhagavad Gita in the modern world. That's why I'm trying to do this. Now let's get back to some problems in putting these two things together. The world of Puranas, the world of information from the Shastras and scriptures, and the modern science, they may not be coherent. They may not relate to each other. But I want to give some idea about that and see how do we deal with it, right? Think about this. Thousands of universes come from the pores of the pores of Narayana, supposed to be the four-armed Narayana. That's what some people say. So let's not get into this complexity between some schools of thought. We just say that this is there in it's in Mahanarayana Upanishad. There it is. There are two types of Mahanarayana Upanishad. In one of the Mahanarayana Upanishads, this is there actually. So the universes come, every breath of the Lord, universes are spun out from this Lord, right? That's what they say. See, whether Narayana was like this or not, it doesn't matter, right? How do we know he was like that? We'll just assume what is the scriptural view on it. Then every breath created so many different universes, and each universe had its own Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, and all. They claim Vishnu and all. It doesn't matter how you can think about it. We just say, okay, each one had got its own Brahma. Then there are thousands of universes. Our Brahma is supposed to be 51 years old now, roughly. And our Brahma's life is about 311 trillion years. That's what they say, assuming some numbers. Okay. And we say our, there are yugas, and the 4 yugas are about something like 4.32 million years. And then There are, that goes into manvantaras, and then you see the timeline. You can go and do some research on this timeline. I'm not going to go into deep into it. And the original cause, some people believe it is Narayana, some people believe it is Krishna, some people believe it is Sadashiva. It doesn't matter, different names. In the Sahasranama, you find Shiva as the name of Narayana too. Sarvasharvasya Vashtanam Bhuta Nidravyaha. So you find this complexity exists. Let us not get into that concept complexity. But we clearly know that Brahma's life is 311 trillion years. Now we say, okay, Brahma's son was Narada. Whoa, how did he exist from some trillion years back? And why did he participate in Bhagavata, which probably took Krishna Avatara took occurred only about 2,000 years ago, something like that, right? The war, Mahabharata war, according to some people, occurred at 500 BC, something like that. So if you look at historic and what really happened, what these Shastras say, this does not seem to gel well. Then do we want to just throw away all these things as useless? And by the way, this is a cause of a lot of trouble to people. I was very confused once upon a time, when I was about 31 years ago. That was a long time ago. A long time ago, I started reading all these things, and I started comparing the astronomical events and the astronomical cycles and all those things, and it was not matching. Where is the 13.8 billion years where the Big Bang occurred, and how do I connect the Big Bang to this life of Brahma or the Divya Yugas or anything like that? It's very hard, very hard. And some person asked me the question, how do we, where are we now? What is this? Are we in the period of Swayambhuva Manu or something like that? What kind of, when Shiv Narana Pratyarthan, Shweta Hara Kalpe, Vaivastata Manmantre, Kaliyuge, Prathame Bhaje, Jambudvipe, Bharata Varshve, we do everything as a daily routine, we do all these things. Does it make sense? Where was this Shweta Hara Kalpa? What kind of Manu was there? When was this Daksha Manu? When we look at all these things, we don't have an idea how to combine science and what we know as our scriptural views. Again, one thing is true. Let's come back to the eternality problem. In the eternality problem, one particular statement always stays very wide open in the sense that they're very clear in the Shastras. Eko havai Narayana asit, na Brahma, na Ishanaha, ne me vidito, na Chandratarako. So this Eko havai Narayana asit, only Narayana existed, nothing else existed in the past. Everything came afterwards. That's whatever that term Narayana means. Naraha, Yanamyasya, everything in the Brahma Sutras, it very clearly says, Janmadyasya taha, that Brahman, without a name or whatever, the Brahman is what defined as from whom all this universe came to existence, who maintains this universe so that everything works according to plan, and he dissolves this universe. All this, everything here will get sucked up into that person. That is the definition of Brahma, which is in the Brahma Sutras. So again, the idea of Brahman being one, the Narayana being one, Eko Havai, Sadeva Somme Idamagra Asit Ekameva Advitiyam. One only existed, nothing else existed, only one. There was no second. There are a number of statements which indicate the oneness of the beginning. That is constant. We have to deal. Then what happens to these three? Jeeva, Jada, and Paramatma. That is the Ishwara. That is souls, matter, and Ishwara, who is ruling this overlord of this universe. So all these three were always there. Then the Shastra says Brahman was only one thing was there. In the beginning, there was only Narayana. Beginning was only one person can say it's Krishna. It doesn't matter. One thing existed. How do we reconcile the one and the three? Which is true? If it is one, karma also somehow got sucked up into one. Jivas got sucked up into one. The Ishwara got sucked up into one, and the matter got sucked up into one. And that one is not understandable. And that one, one Acharya says that it is nirguna. That means it has no any attribute there. No attributes can be said to that once, the state of one. And one Acharya says that is Shankaracharya, and Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya say that no, that was auspicious, all auspicious Sakara Kalyana Guna Sampanna, all auspicious attributes were there at that beginning, that is Brahman's attributes. So one person says there are attributes, one person says there was no attributes. One other solution is no attributes were there, but nothing was manifest. There was nothing to manifest. So like a black hole, everything was contained in inward. No expression of the gunas or attributes were there. Hence, it was dark, and we cannot talk about it because avyakta, it is beyond reach of any kind of knowledge. So one person says it's hidden, unmanifest. So we come up with different viewpoints on in the past. Now step back to some kind of reality here today. What do we understand out of life? In our science, we need to do this comparison. Science has a different timeline now. We can look at the nature's timeline, and we can also look at the life timeline, right? The timeline for human timeline and everything like that. Nature's timeline, obviously, we said the whole universe was only there for 13.8 billion years back. The earliest time for the universe, there were stars and early galaxies and the quasars, and then different galaxies, matter-dominated era, accelerated expansion occurred, water came in there, somewhere water started, and probably on Earth, 4.5 billion years ago, 4.6 billion years ago, the solar system came, 4.5 billion years ago, the Earth came, the earliest water and everything came later. The human beings are probably only a couple of million years back. So the thing is, the nature timeline is different. The last 10 million years, if you expand, the apes and the chimpanzees and the bipedals and the stone tools and different kind of early human beings, and then Homo sapiens, which is the modern human beings with the speech and clothes and cooking and fire, and all these things came recently. How do we, combine this with our shastras? The scripture says we talk about the Manus, and we talk about the Brahma and his children and all those things, Saraswati, all these things. How do we combine this? Answer is, we don't know. But there is a different answer also. I'll come to that also shortly. Let me come to the answer a little bit later. But at this point, we don't know. Let's keep it that way. Not that I would know in a few minutes. I don't want to explain this. This is just see our Hindu system, Vedic system, always talk about, see in the Western system, the scientific system, what they've done, not Western, it's scientific. Scientific system, what they do is, they talk about absolute time, they talk about absolute matter. They don't talk about the knowing self. Who is the knower? They don't talk much about it. But nowadays, there's a lot of work going on in consciousness and all. That's a different issue. But they never used to talk much about the observer. In the Vedic system, you have to look at everything together. Adhyatma is the senses and mind, and also the soul within, which is lighting up the senses and mind, right? Then you have the adhibhuta, that is the matter around you, and the adhidaiva is the forces, is actually divine forces, because the divine forces which control your indriyas, control your senses. Right now, how does the sense work? The senses seem to work, but it's taken as automatic in science, as nature. They will just say nature. And what they say nature, there is something called, there is a force, there are devatas which make the senses work. So devatas behind how we digest our food, we think, we perceive the objects around us, we perceive taste, we perceive touch. There are some divine forces helping us. So we know that's different from us, because we, as I, don't seem to be doing all these things. So we understand this triad of Adhyatma, Adhidaiva, and Adhibhuta always existing in this universe, right? This is some fundamental to how we perceive. So we need to know what Adhyatma means. We need to know what Adhibhuta means, or we need to know what Adhideva means. Unless we know what powers our senses and mind, what the soul is, and what this matter is, the complete picture is not there. And science might get crippled by looking at only one thing at a time. Science does not deal with where does consciousness come from. Does consciousness come from matter? Is still struggling with different theories right now. And let us not go into all these things now. It's not. But we know that consciousness is a big problem in science. And if somebody asks you, does consciousness come from hydrogen or carbon or amino acids? How did thoughts come from? Where did thought come from? No answer. Some people say, like how alcohol is created by adding barley water and keeping it for a long time and fermenting it. So this consciousness came from somewhere else. That's just a theory. So what we're saying is our system of thought is different, where we did not look outside scientifically using instruments and telescopes and stuff like that. What we did was our sages, all our system of thought comes from our sages long time back. The sages, there are 18 branches of knowledge which came from the sages. And Bhagavad Gita is inside Itihasa, which is Mahabharata, which is one part of it. Initially, the Vedas came. And how did the Vedas came? Dhyana yoga anugata avashyan adhyatma shaktim sugunair virodham, the Shvetashvatara says. Kim karanam brahma kutasma jataha jiva kena. What is this Brahman? Where did we come from? How are we living? The rishis went into penance and figure out what is the cause of universe. And so the Vedas were not written initially. Where did the Vedas come from? Vedas existed as knowledge. How? Like how gravity exists in this universe. Knowledge exists in this universe, and you can get to the knowledge when you do yoga, when you do meditation. When you do meditation, you can go inward, and then you will figure out the constantly, eternally available sounds, like the pranava sound. And through the pranava sound, when you go further and further in meditation, you can see divine knowledge. So Vedas were actually like watching a movie with a special 3D glasses. The sages had this glasses out of meditation, and using that glass out of meditation, they saw and figured out what life is. And they never wrote Vedas, by the way. Much later, they used to even there is a quick analogy I'm going to tell you. You need this. You know the story of Dakshinamurti. I don't know if you know the story of Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti is a sattvic form of Shiva, and it seems that he was very young, and Vriddha Shishya Gurur Yuva. His students were like Sanaka Sanandana with beards and all growing, very old people waiting to hear from Dakshinamurti. And Dakshinamurti, they were asking, obviously the questions in their mind was, why are we here? What is this Brahman? How did we come across? How do we understand all these things? And they were waiting for an answer from Lord Dakshinamurti. Dakshinamurti never answered. He smiled and kept quiet. Mauna. But what do you call gurostu mauna vyakhyanam shishyastu chinna samshayaha, they say. Guru never explained, and he explained through silence. And all the students like Sanaka Sanandana, all their ignorance was lost. They were happy. They had no doubts. They knew everything. They realized the nature of universe, why we are here, what is truth, what is not, what is the way to get out of here, and the divine, what do you call, the divine aspect of life as an expression of this Lord's glory. This is not a bondage. Oh my God, thanks that we have a body. That's what they said. So glad that I have a body, because with this body I could meditate and I could realize the vision of Brahman, which is so powerful, so pleasing, and so bliss, so much of bliss. They were overjoyed. So similarly, if you meditate, you can find the answers. And without this meditation, you cannot find the answers to these puzzles of Anadi. This is possible only through yoga. Time is visible through yoga. Brahman this is visible as Sudarshana Chakra, they say, where Jagat Chakram, Kala Chakram, all these chakras are contained in the Sudarshana Chakra. And to a yogi, that Sudarshana Chakra is visible. And even the holder of the Sudarshana Chakra, Lord Krishna, is also visible to the yogis. So, turning inwards is the only way to solve the problems of science, problem of bondage, problem of our consciousness. We have to turn inwards. Then we will know. And the Vedas were written much later, because the other people could not go into the state of samadhi, like how Dakshinamurti transmitted samadhi state to his initiation to his immediate students. Those students tried to initiate to the next students. And eventually, after the line of students, the number of students started appearing like me, I guess. And for those people, they had to write it down. To write them down, they put the Vedas into script. Before that, the Vedas were never written in any script, the Brahmi script or any of the Sanskrit scripts. So we need to understand where Vedas came from. After that, the Vedas were very complicated. They did Brahma Sutras, and Lord Krishna directly said the Bhagavad Gita. So we have all this information now. So we need to understand where our knowledge came from. It came from internal vision of yoga. That we need to remember. So why does the timeline of the Puranas, the Puranas even talk about the, Lavana Samudra, Plakshadvipa, all these things. Does it really connect to our science? May not. So to explain all these things, there are a different science known as yoga, yogic science. They can go and say what the timeline of Brahman is, what the timeline of what the geography of the earth, this Jambudvipa, all these things. The yogis can understand that what is Meru, mountain Meru. They're all inner visions. According to what I understand, is all these things are inner experiences. There is something known as Dharakasha within us. Only yogis can go, and if we meditate, we probably can go too. We can probably realize. Pratyakshavagamanam dharmyam, Lord Krishna says that everything is realizable. So the inner worlds we can see is inside our Dharakasha. When we turn our gaze, our consciousness to within, we can find that Dharakasha. Yavan va ayam lokaha tavan. That means this, like how we find this universe so difficult to understand, the billions and billions of light years away with so many different items in it, like black holes, stars, and burning stars, whatever kind of different stars, dying stars, right? So all this universe, what we see from the external indriyas, like how we have to look at it only from indriyas, right? Through indriyas. So this universe, what is visible to our indriyas, there's something else visible within us. That is a separate loka. There's this whole universe out there which is much bigger than the external universe. So when we go into inner regions, then we can figure out and map the geography of the Puranas and the timeline of the Puranas and the external world. Till we do that, we will not be able to do it. Just want to remember in the second chapter we said, Yanisha sarvabhutanam yasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagarti bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. That is this. The person who is doing meditation, pashyato munehe, he is watching. He is in a different world. And that world is not visible to us, ordinary people. That world is visible to only the yogis. It is night for us, and that is day for them. What happens in our meditation? They talk about, why am I saying this? My friend sent me a note on, today is Ramanavami, by the way, and happy Ramanavami. And he said, where is this Ayodhya? Ayodhya is in our hearts. Ashtachakra Navadvara Devanam Pura Ayodhya. I don't remember the exact verse. This is in the Vedas. There is beautiful, wonderful, blissful place called Ayodhya, which is in our heart. You have to see Rama in your heart, in that Dharakasha, through meditation. So there is no point fighting about Ayodhya on earth and saying that should I, blow up a mosque there, or should I build a Ayodhya there? So every one of us, wherever you live, you may live in Malaysia or in Japan or US or Turkey, it doesn't matter. You should find Rama inside your heart today by meditation. That's what I just wanted to mention, because today is Ram Navami. So what happens is the Ashta the chakras are there in our body, and our consciousness moves through these chakras while doing dhyana. And then we can realize different lokas internally. In fact, the yogis believe that the 14 lokas, which they call it as Atala, Mahatala, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Patala, and all these different lokas, the lower lokas, 7 lokas, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala, they say, right? And the upper lokas, which are actually chakras, which are Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Ajna, Sahasrara. They say these lokas, the 14 lokas exist within our body. And if you do meditation, you will go away from the lower aspects of animal life, which includes murdering or consciousness, lessness, selfishness, prolonged confusion, jealousy, rage, anger, fear, lust. All these things are lower, animal tendencies. You go away from that, and what blooms in you while you do meditation is reason, willpower, direct cognition, divine love, divine sight, illumination of inner reality. So these lokas are internal, according to you, for yogis. I will finish this up quickly in a couple of slides, because I've created this. I just want to finish it. We talk about Bhur Swaha, right? I wanted to connect this Adhyatma, Adhibhuta, Adhideva again, so that you get an idea of what is yoga here. Bhuhu is anything in the sensual realm. That means what is visible. See, there are different definitions of Bhuhu, Bhuva, Swaha, right? But I am giving a yogic definition, which I like this definition better than many of the other definitions. This definition says Bhuhu means sensual realm. Our knowledge right now is in the space-time universe, which is sensual. We touch, feel, see, taste, all these things are sensual. Our mind, everything. So we live in this world, which is the sensual world. No, if you look at it, Bhuhu means the sensual world. Even if you use a telescope or a radio telescope or a micro telescope, it doesn't matter. Microwave telescope, it doesn't matter. Everything which is visible to us, this 15 billion light years kind of universe, it is in the Bhuhu. And Bhuvaha is the internal world. That means if you stop your, the famous statement called, I think, therefore I am. That is really the start of modern science. One second, let me complete this quickly, because I don't want to get disturbed at this point. There may be some messages for me. I'm not sure. Okay. See, what to say this, Bhuhu is this universe here, right? That is what we see. When we control our senses and our mind is controlled, then our pranas act. The prana is the internal prana. And because of the prana, you can see the internal devatas. The gods are directly, they can appear to us. That is the Bhuvarloka. And beyond that, if you go beyond, that is the Adhyatma or the Swarloka. So this is the three levels of Bhuhu, Bhuvaha, Swaha within us. Now again, we had this before. This logically we cannot understand why we came here. We have to go internal, right? And whether we are always separate, if Madhvacharya believes that we are all always separate, eternally separate, right? There is a reason for it, and we'll come to that later. And I'm going to ignore this for now. The answer to the Anadi is this, right? I have already given some answers. I'm going to complete it. There is a verse called Vidyate Hridaya Grantihi, Chidyante Sarva Samshayaha, Khyante Chasya Karmani, Tasmin Drishte Paravare. That means the knots of the heart, the doubts we have, everything, and these knots are known as the Brahma Granthi, Rudra Granthi, Vishnu Granthi. They're actually Avidya, Kama, and Karma. All these are there within us. Because of desires, ignorance, and karma, we are bound here, and we don't know many things. These knots are broken at once if our knowledge sees, that is, if we are able to see Lord within us. Chidyante sarva samshaya. All the doubts are broken. They're dispelled in 1 second, immediately. The mind becomes clear. All the karmas will go away. There is no bondage anymore. There is no rebirth. Tasmin drishte paravare. When that Lord is seen. So seeing Lord within is our goal. That is the goal of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita does not talk about all these things. Bhagavad Gita directly assumes that you already have sort of figured it out. And Bhagavad Gita talks about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga, which leads you to the internal Lord, to see the Lord within and experience Him directly. Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam, which is directly experienceable right here while we're here. So with this, what am I going to do is I'm going to stop the lecture for today, and I'm going to stop this sharing. Probably I have taken, okay, let me come back to this. Okay. Any questions? I didn't stop it all today. I went all along because I wanted to have some kind of focus on what I'm talking about. It was a little complex subject, and the questions people asked were amazing. And the reason I wanted to take this class is long time back when I was trying to figure out how the external science and our scriptures don't match each other. When I was 30 years old or something, I became almost like an atheist because I figured out why science is telling me the truth and our ancient scriptures are not telling me the truth. So I could not balance each other. So it took me a long time for me to figure out how to balance this and understand, saying that science has its problems. We have to look and understand our scriptures properly. And that can be understood not by just studying, by actually realizing it using yoga. And once if we are lucky, our Lord will help us, and our Acharyas will help us realize that right here in our life. Any questions? I guess there are no questions, I think. Any questions?
We'll email the questions, Swami.
Nothing, right? Okay. Any feedback? Did you hear anything? Did you understand what I was talking about?
Absolutely.
It was excellent.
I didn't hear you. Oh, okay.
It was very comprehensive.
Very comprehensive. Thank you very much. If you have any more doubts, please let me know. What's your name? I didn't get your name.
I'm Vijay Lakshmi.
Vijay Lakshmi. Okay. So thanks very much. Please send a note, a comment, or what did you think about this class on the Telegram or on the Bhagavad Gita lecture links. Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Param Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha, Sarvam Shri Krishna Padamastu, Shri Lakshmi Hayavadana Parabrahmane Namaha, Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Parabrahmane Namaha, Shri Sita Sameta Ramachandra Parabrahmane Namaha, Sarvam Shri Krishna Padamastu.